it's Haley, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I am hoping to read this fall. So, while 2020 has been pretty all over the place, I have been having a pretty successful reading year. I feel like I've found some really great books. I mean, I've also been kind of all over the place with my reading, but I think I've been more consistent than I have in the past couple of years. I would say that I'm not really in a slump anymore. My main problem has been trying to find the time to read. I just have been so overwhelmed by everything else that it has been a real struggle to prioritize reading, but that's definitely something I want to work on because there's so many books that I have that I'm super excited for and really looking forward to reading, and I just need to work on making reading more of a priority for myself, which can be really hard sometimes when I have a million things to do. But it's definitely going to be my goal, especially going into fall, because I have like giant stacks here of books that I'm super excited to read. So these are basically the books that I'm hoping to read in the next 2 to 3 months. I feel like fall goes by like that, like it's here and then it's gone. I don't know if it's because Christmas basically starts in November, but I also feel like fall just genuinely starts late. It's my favorite season, but it also goes by so quickly. So it just it's a toss-up really, but I definitely have big reading plans, so fingers crossed I can be successful. Now in this list I have a few random books. I have quite a few mysteries, historical fictions, thrillers. I'm not the biggest mystery or thriller reader, but I generally do enjoy reading those around September, October, that sort of time of year, and that's definitely reflected in this sort of TBR. I will by no means get to all of these books, but I'm really hoping that I will be able to make a decent dent in it, especially because I'm going to be trying to get caught up on my Goodreads goals, so I hope I can do it. So I actually have a few books that I have pre-ordered. They're not out yet, so I don't have my copies, but they are definitely at the top of this list, so I'm gonna start off with them. That way I also won't forget about them. So first is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco. This book is actually unfortunately coming out like October 29th or something like that, which is really sad because I would like to read it earlier in October, but it's whatever. I will get to it eventually. Maybe I will read it like right when it comes out or something like that. But this is the author of Stalking Jack the Ripper, which is a series that finished last year and I really enjoyed. They're fun murder mysteries. That sounds weird, but like, I don't know, they're like romantic Victorian murder mysteries and they were really enjoyable to read. Now, this one is a little bit different. So this story follows two twin sisters. It is once again a murder mystery, but the one twin dies, so the other one goes to try and like see what happened to her. There is witchcraft involved as well, so that's a little different because her other series didn't really have a fantastical element to it, so I'm super looking forward to this one. Next is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. I am so excited for my copy of this one to come in because it sounds really good and pretty perfect for October, or the spooky season if you will. Once again, I feel like it's mentioning I don't really like Halloween. I live for a seasonal read. But this story follows a transgender boy who is determined to prove his gender to his Latinx family. Now, he ends up summoning a ghost who then refuses to leave. So that's where we get the kind of ghosty vibes going into it. I feel like this is going to be really good and I'm so excited. I've heard some amazing pre-release reviews, so I can't wait. Next is, of course, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. I'm so excited for this one. Once again, a book that I've heard some really good things about before its release. The concept of it is fascinating to me. It's like she talks to people, but they forget who she is. So how are you supposed to like make any relationships? I don't know, but it for some reason seems like a good fall sort of read, and I mean, I think this is one that I'm really going to like. I'm definitely super intrigued by that concept. Also, just the writing of that would be so complicated. Like, I don't know how she's gonna do it, but I feel like if anyone can, she can. And finally, for the unreleased ones is Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour. Nina LaCour is an author that I've read. Have I read 1 or 2 of her books before? I don't know, but she's definitely an author that I want to read some more of because I have enjoyed what I've read. And this one's a little bit different because it deals with ghosts. So this girl just up and leaves and goes to this like reclusive sort of town, and she's just living alone there, but she's fine because she's used to being alone. But there's also ghosts. so we'll see how that goes. Now I could have some rhyme or reason to the rest of this pile, but honestly I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to organize it, so I'm just gonna pick up whatever. So next is The King of Crows by Libba Bray. This, of course, is the final book of the Diviners series. I almost said trilogy, but no, it is a series, and I am so excited for this one. I will for sure be getting to it. Watch, I don't even get to it, but like, I feel like I will. I think at the beginning of October, this will be the first book that I pick up. I can't wait. I love this series so much, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen to these characters. They are all so near and dear to my heart, and I don't know what's gonna happen at all, but I hope that they all come out okay, but I really do not know. So like I said, there are some random books on this TBR. So next is When You Were Everything by Ashley Woodfolk. I've included this book in a couple of TBRs recently because I want to read it, I just haven't gotten the chance to pick it up yet. But I think this book deals with a really important topic, which is friendship breakups. So you follow two girls who used to be best friends and then they end up drifting apart, and that can be something really difficult, but I think it's something that everyone can relate to, and there's really not that many books that have been written about it, but it's definitely a hard thing to deal with and a hard thing to understand. It's kind of like a relationship breakup too, so I'm super excited to read this book. I think it's going to be really good. I definitely have high expectations, and I hope I will be able to get to it this fall. Next is a book that I can't believe I haven't read yet, but oh my goodness, I really need to, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo is like my favorite author of all time. This is her first adult novel. It is an adult fantasy paranormal story, and I started reading it last year, but I never got the chance to finish it. It deals with Yale and secret societies and ghosts too, so I think it definitely is pretty perfect for around this time of year, and it's one that I'm hoping I'll be able to finally read because I can't believe I haven't yet. Like, I love her so much, and I know this is different for her, and it's definitely a different sort of read for me, but I think I still will probably like it. Fingers crossed. I'll be really sad if I don't. Next is actually another adult novel, and that is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. So this was actually recommended to me by one of my friends, and I picked it up one day. I think, did I find it? I think I got it on bargain. So I was like, why not give it a chance, see how it goes. So this deals with a mysterious reclusive author, which I'm kind of a sucker for. It kind of reminds me of Evelyn Hugo, but with an author instead. So the author is infamous for her set of 12 stories that she's written, and even more infamous for the 13th one that is missing. And I don't know if there was like supposed to be, I mean, obviously I would assume there was supposed to be a 13th one, but she never wrote it or something. I don't know if this has a fantastical element to it or anything. It just seems like a kind of good read to, you know, sit down on a rainy fall day and just sit down, curl up and read it. I feel like fall books are all about the vibe for me. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, it makes sense in my head. Next is I Want to Be Where You Are by Kristina Forrest. This definitely doesn't fit the fall vibe, but I have read quite a few books dealing with dancing and ballet specifically recently, and this is the last one that I have, as long as I read Shiny Broken Pieces, which I will be very soon, but this is the other one that I have. So it's about a girl who goes on a road trip. There's a dog in it, so that's a big thumbs up for me, but she's going to this ballet audition that her mother said that she couldn't go to. So she was like, I'm just gonna go. And she ends up being stuck with her neighbor and her neighbor's adorable dog because he catches her leaving, and the only way that he will let her go without ratting her out is to go with her. So I have been reading so much about dance that I feel like now is the time for me to pick this one up. Next is actually a classic, which I haven't really included many on recent TBRs because I haven't really been reading that many. I am currently listening to Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, which is a gothic story. I haven't gotten a lot of listening time in recently, but that one I have been making my way through. Oh, I actually do have another one that I'm supposed to read. So I'm also supposed to read the portrait of, is it The Picture of Dorian Gray? It's The Portrait of a Young Man. The Picture of Dorian Gray? I can't think right now, but that one by Oscar Wilde I am supposed to read as well, and I've heard some really great things about that one, so I'm excited for it. But I'm supposed to read that with my classics book club thing that I'm reading Rebecca with. But I also would like to get to Dracula by Bram Stoker. I've included this on so many October TBRs and I haven't gotten to it yet. I have read Frankenstein, and this is like the other iconic monster story that I feel like needs to be read. Next, I have 3 books all by the same author. So I have read one of this author. Kat Winters is the author. I don't know why I didn't say her name at first, but I've read one of her books before and it was perfect for the fall spooky season. It was a World War I historical fiction that had some like ghosts or apparitions, and it also dealt with Spanish influenza, so maybe not the best thing to read right now, but it was really enjoyable. So she specializes, or seems to specialize, in the World War I sort of era, the 1910s. So all 3 of these books are set then, I believe. So we have The Steep and Thorny Way, which is a Hamlet retelling, I think. I can't remember if it's Hamlet or something else, but I'm pretty sure it's Hamlet. Then we have Odd and True, which is like this girl, her sister goes missing and would tell her these monster stories, but then she comes back and it turns out the monster stories were real. So monsters, definitely perfect for this time of year. And the last one is The Cure for Dreaming, which is about like psychic abilities. There's hypnosis and stuff, so I feel like that will definitely be a good one for around this time of year. Something about her stories just scream like spooky vibes to me, so I definitely like that. She also has a Edgar Allan Poe story that I think I still have a copy of it somewhere, so if I can find that, that will also be one that I would like to read this month. Not this month. This is not a monthly TBR, this is multiple months TBR. Next is The Wicked Deep by Shea Earnshaw. This is about witches, and it's these 3 sisters who were drowned because of witchcraft, and then they come back and they possess 3 girls at random every year, and they lure boys into the water and pull them under as revenge every year. So like that definitely is very intriguing. I think this is also being adapted by Netflix. I'm not exactly sure when, but I would like to read it before that. Next is Bone Gap by Laura Ruby. This is the second Laura Ruby book that I have on my TBR. I also have 13 Doorways and Wolves Behind Them All that I would like to get to soon, but this one is a sort of magical story. Seems a little bit mysterious to me. The synopsis like doesn't really tell you anything. There's a girl who goes missing, and like Bone Gap is full of gaps, so everyone knows that, but like this guy, he knows what happened to the girl. He knows that she was kidnapped by a dangerous man whose face he cannot remember. I have no clue what's gonna happen here, but like it definitely, the mystery is there, so seems like a fall book to me. Next is The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd-Jones. I got this book around October last year, but I think it was too late for me to actually read it. But now is the perfect time, so it seems really good for this time of year because it deals with like reanimated corpses that are known as bone houses, and the main characters are grave diggers. Their parents had died a long time ago, and they have been digging graves, but it's very complicated because sometimes the corpses come back to life, so that obviously adds a little bit of a complication to a gravedigger's job. Next is Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore. This is a adult romance historical fiction. I haven't read very many of those. I tend to stick to the realistic, or not that it's not realistic, but contemporary rather, romances for adult, but I heard amazing things about this one. It is the first book in a series, The League of Extraordinary Women, and one of my friends read it and she really enjoyed it, and I just have been putting it off for a very long time, so why not read it now? Speaking of books that I've been meaning to read for a long time, next is Leviathan by Scott Westerfeld. This is a World War I steampunk historical fiction, and I haven't read very many World War I historical fictions, but I've liked all the ones that I've read, I'm pretty sure. But this has like illustrations in it too, which is so cool, and since it's steampunk, it has all of this different machinery and stuff, and I really enjoy Scott Westerfeld. I think I've started this a couple of times. Look, it even has a map. But he is the author of the Ugly series, which was like my favorite when I was a kid. I super enjoyed that, and this series just seems like a very interesting concept, so I would like to get to it. Next is When We Were Magic by Sarah Gailey. I was talking about this book in my September TBR, but I couldn't find it, but now I obviously found it. So it's kind of like a high school like drama story, but mixed with witches. So there's a spell that's performed that ends up with this guy dead, and then they keep on performing spells. It's this group of girls that are all best friends, but they're all witches as well. But all the spells that they keep performing keep on failing and making things worse, and it just is a whole mess. I remember opening up this book and the first line totally intrigued me, or not even the first line, I think it was the first little bit of it. Let's see. Yeah, so the first, like this first little bit, totally, I was like, this seems like it's gonna be amazing. It starts off with an interesting note, and I'm excited to read it. Next, I have a couple of books that I'm both sad and embarrassed to include here because I've included them on so many TBRs recently that the fact that I haven't read them yet is sad, and that is The War Outside and They Went Left by Monica Hesse. These are both World War II historical fictions. This one is set in internment camps and it follows a Japanese prisoner and a German prisoner, and this one deals with a brother and a sister who are trying to find each other after being liberated from a concentration camp. So both very different World War II historical fictions. This is the author of The Girl in the Blue Coat, which I really love. I don't know why I haven't gotten to these yet, so I'm just gonna leave it at that because honestly, I've included them in so many TBRs now. It's a lot. Next is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I feel like after all of this mystery and kind of heaviness of this TBR, all the historical fiction and everything, I will want something kind of fun and light and fluffy, and this seems like a great pick for that. This story features a female-female romance, and it's about a girl who wants to become prom queen just because she wants to get financial aid because she is hoping to become a doctor. It just seems like it's gonna be really cute. I'm super excited for the romance and just something about like prom queen and everything. It seems very different from the rest of this TBR, but like it might be a refreshing twist. Next is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. I included this one on my September TBR as well, so I'm just going to talk about it briefly, but it is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, but really creepy and twisted. I've heard amazing things about it, so I think my expectations are pretty high going into it, and I'm really hoping it's not going to let me down. Next up is The Library of the Unwritten by AJ Hackwith. This seems like the perfect kind of anytime read, but I'm kind of still trying to get back into fantasy, so this is an adult fantasy, and it's definitely a metafiction sort of story because it deals with unwritten stories, so unfinished stories. They are in this library in hell, and it is the Library of the Unwritten, and you follow the librarian of that as she's trying to find this hero who has escaped from his story in search of his author. And I think this concept sounds absolutely amazing, and oh my gosh, if it's anything like what I'm expecting, it's going to be really, really good, so hopefully it is. Speaking of adult fantasy and libraries, I also have The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I haven't finished this book yet. I started listening to the audiobook and I just got distracted by, I don't even know what. I think it may have been at the beginning of the pandemic, so that was a little bit distracting, obviously, but I've heard so many amazing things about this story, and I think that the concept for it seems really cool. I didn't really like The Night Circus that much, but I was enjoying my time listening to this audiobook, so I think I might have better luck with this one. I can't really remember what the library concept for this one is actually. It's far beneath the surface of Earth, upon the shores of the Starless Sea, that's a tongue twister, there is a labyrinthian collection of tunnels and rooms filled with stories. The entries that lead to this sanctuary are often hidden, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it's just this hidden library, so cool. Next, I have The Conference of Birds by Ransom Riggs. This is, I think, the final book of the Miss Peregrine series, so it was a trilogy, and then there were some books added on, and I think there was just one more before this one, and then it was this one. I love reading these around fall because the pictures are super creepy. There's just something about them, like old photos really creep me out. I can't explain it, but like, I don't know, I guess I'm just really easily terrified, but I love the fact that the author builds the story around these photos. It's a super cool series for that reason. Like, I think when I initially saw this in the bookstore, I was like, there's no way I'm reading that. It's gonna scare the crap out of me. But I really love it. Like, it surprised me with how much I loved it because it isn't really that creepy. It's just kind of the photos that make it a little bit creepy. Next is Iron Cask by Destiny Saraya. So this is set during 1919 and it follows two girls who have the ability to make these like apparitions, and they do it at this club, and their blood is what gives them the ability to make these illusions. So during the day they use this skill to con the city's elite so then they can fund the club that they're working at to make this art. I really don't know what to expect from this, but I think it could be super cool. I'm hoping that it is as cool as it is in my head. Like, once again, I feel like that's a lot of these books. They're super cool in my head and I hope they live up to that. I feel like that's really any book. That was a stupid statement, but it's out there now, so you're welcome. And the final book on this very long books I want to read this fall is Dreamland Burning by Jennifer Latham. This is an interesting historical fiction because part of it is modern day, but part of it is 100 years in the past. So in modern day, the main character discovers a skeleton on his family's property, and it turns out that is connected to something from 100 years earlier, and it was this whole violent encounter that sparked a racial firestorm, and it is also 100 years earlier, is during the time of Jim Crow. So I think this is going to be a really interesting story, and definitely one that deals with some difficult topics, but I think it's going to bring about a lot of important discussions too, and I've heard some really good things about it, so I'm excited for it. So those are all of the books that I'm hoping to read this fall. I know that's a lot, but I have been, like I said, doing pretty well with my reading recently. I've been able to get to 1 to like 3 books a week. Usually it's 2 or like 1.5, but I feel like that's really good for me, especially with how I had been doing in like the past couple of years. I'm happy with that. So I hope that I can get to a good chunk of these. That would be awesome. I still have like 50 books that I need to read before the end of the year to meet my Goodreads goal, and I'm determined to do that, so I'm gonna try and get ahead on video so I can really focus on that and writing a little bit. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you are hoping to read this fall, and also what you have read off of this list, if you have read any of them, your thoughts on them, because I would love to know. But I will see you guys in my next video soon. Bye!